The diplomatic chamber aboard the Celestial Harmony hummed with the soft blue light of Zilithian technology. Ambassador Marcus Chen stood at the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by towering figures draped in flowing robes that seemed to shimmer like liquid starlight. The Zilithian Matriarchy had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 3,000 years, and their representatives carried themselves with the grace of beings who had never known defeat. Matriarch Velandra Kesathara rose from her ornate throne, her four arms moving in perfect synchronization as she gestured for silence. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, her elongated limbs and pale blue skin gave her an otherworldly elegance that commanded respect from every species in the known galaxy. Her large, violet eyes studied Marcus with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. "Human Ambassador Chen," her voice resonated through the chamber like a melody played on crystal chimes. "We have gathered here today to discuss the potential membership of your species in the Galactic Confederation. Your people have shown remarkable technological advancement in such a short time." Marcus nodded respectfully, keeping his hands clasped behind his back as protocol demanded. The other alien dignitaries watched him with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. The insectoid Krextai delegates clicked their mandibles softly, while the gaseous ethernol representatives swirled in their containment suits with what he had learned to recognize as mild interest. "We are honored by your consideration, Matriarch," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the weight of representing all humanity in this moment. "Earth's people are eager to contribute to the peaceful expansion of knowledge and cooperation among the stars." Matriarch Velandra descended the steps of her platform with fluid grace, her multiple arms moving in gestures that Marcus had studied extensively during his preparation for this mission. The Zilithians communicated as much through movement as they did through words, and every gesture carried layers of meaning that could make or break diplomatic relations. "Your species intrigues us," she continued, circling Marcus slowly like a predator studying prey. "In our extensive record spanning millennia, we have cataloged over 47,000 intelligent species. Each has evolved unique traits that define their capabilities and limitations. The Krextai possess unparalleled hive intelligence. The ether null can phase through solid matter at will. The stone-skinned Gravaks can survive in the vacuum of space without protection." She paused directly in front of him, her violet gaze intense. "But humans are different. Your physical capabilities seem remarkably average by galactic standards. No natural weapons, no psychic abilities, no environmental immunities. And yet..." Marcus waited patiently as she seemed to search for the right words. He had been briefed on Zilithian communication patterns and knew that interrupting would be considered deeply offensive. "And yet," she continued, "your species has achieved in mere centuries what takes most civilizations millennia to accomplish. Your technological advancement, your adaptability, your seemingly impossible ability to thrive in any environment you encounter. It defies our understanding of evolutionary development." The other delegates murmured among themselves in their various languages. Marcus could pick out fragments of conversations in Universal Standard, the common tongue used for interspecies communication. The general consensus seemed to be puzzlement mixed with grudging admiration. "If I may, Matriarch," Marcus said carefully, "perhaps our strength lies not in any single extraordinary ability, but in our capacity to adapt and innovate. Humanity has always faced challenges by finding creative solutions." "Indeed," Velandra mused, beginning to pace again. "We have studied your historical records extensively, your wars, your achievements, your remarkable tendency to accomplish the impossible when circumstances demand it. But there is something that our xenobiologists cannot explain." She stopped and turned to face him directly, all four of her hands moving in what Marcus recognized as a gesture of deep curiosity mixed with confusion. "During our observations of human behavior, we have noticed that your species possesses certain anatomical features that serve no apparent evolutionary purpose, yet seem to grant you capabilities that should be impossible. Marcus felt his brow furrow slightly. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, matriarch. Show me your hands, she commanded softly. Without hesitation, Marcus brought his hands forward, holding them palm up at chest level. He had expected many things during these negotiations, but a detailed examination of his anatomy had not been among them. Valandra leaned forward, her violet eyes widening as she studied his hands with the intensity of a scientist discovering a new law of physics. The other delegates gathered closer, their own various forms of sensory organs focusing on Marcus with sudden, acute interest. Fascinating, she whispered, her primary hands hovering just inches from his without touching. The appendages are even more remarkable in person than in our recordings. My hands? Marcus asked, genuinely confused. Not the hands themselves, Valandra corrected, but the fifth digit, the one that moves independently of the others. Marcus looked down at his thumbs, still not comprehending why they would be of such interest. You mean my thumbs? The effect of this simple word was immediate and dramatic. Every alien in the chamber seemed to recoil slightly, and a symphony of surprised sounds filled the air. Clicking, chittering, humming, and what sounded like harmonic whistling created a cacophony of alien astonishment. Thumbs, Valandra repeated the word slowly, as if testing its weight. You have a name for them, as if they are ordinary things. Well, Marcus said slowly, they are ordinary. Every human has them. Every human, she said faintly. Every single member of your species possesses these appendages? Of course, Marcus replied, his confusion growing. They're essential for gripping and manipulating objects. Without thumbs, we couldn't use tools effectively. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as the implications of this statement spread among the delegates. Marcus watched in bewilderment as species that had shown nothing but cool, diplomatic interest suddenly became animated, their various forms of communication creating a din that the translation devices struggled to keep up with. Matriarch Valandra raised two of her hands for silence, and the chamber gradually quieted. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note of something Marcus couldn't quite identify. Wonder, perhaps, or possibly fear. Ambassador Chen, she said formally, in all our thousands of years of cataloging intelligent life, we have never encountered a species where every individual possesses what you call thumbs. This opposition digit that can touch and grip against the other fingers with such precision. She gestured to her own four hands, each possessing 6 long, elegant fingers that moved with remarkable dexterity, but in a fundamentally different way than human digits. We Zilithians have achieved great things with our elongated digits and superior reach. The Krextai accomplish remarkable feats with their specialized limb configurations. But what you describe, this universal possession of precision manipulation appendages, it explains much about your species' rapid advancement. Marcus began to understand the magnitude of what was being discussed, something he had never given a second thought to. Something as basic as his thumbs was apparently unique in the known galaxy. You're saying that no other intelligent species has opposable thumbs? He asked carefully. None, Valandra confirmed. Some species have developed tools and technology through other means. Enhanced intelligence, psychic manipulation of matter, specialized limb configurations. But the precision and versatility that your thumbs provide, it is unprecedented. She moved closer, her violet eyes fixed on his hands with an intensity that was both fascinating and slightly unnerving. Ambassador Chen, she said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I must ask you something that may seem unusual for formal diplomatic proceedings. Of course, Matriarch. How may I assist you? Her four hands moved in complex patterns that Marcus's diplomatic training identified as gestures of humble request mixed with scientific curiosity. May I examine them? Your thumbs? Our xenobiologists have only been able to study recordings and long-distance observations. To better understand your species and what makes you so remarkably adaptable, I would like to observe their function directly. Marcus looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates, all of whom seemed to be holding their breath in anticipation of his response. The weight of this moment was becoming clear to him. This wasn't just about thumbs anymore. This was about what made humanity unique in a galaxy full of extraordinary species. I would be honored to demonstrate, Marcus replied formally. What happened next would change not only the course of diplomatic relations between humanity and the Galactic Confederation, but also the way an entire galaxy understood the power of seemingly simple evolutionary advantages. The examination chamber had been hastily prepared aboard the Celestial Harmony, its sterile surfaces gleaming under the soft illumination that the Zilithians preferred. Marcus found himself seated at a specially designed table that could accommodate beings of various sizes and configurations. Around him, the galaxy's finest xenobiologists and evolutionary specialists had gathered, their equipment humming with quiet efficiency. Matriarch Velandra stood beside him, her four hands moving in careful, controlled gestures as she activated a series of recording devices. The other delegates formed a loose circle around the table, each representing species that had dominated different aspects of galactic civilization for millennia. If you would, Ambassador Chen, Velandra said softly, please demonstrate the basic function of these appendages. Marcus held up his right hand, palm facing the assembled crowd. This is a human hand, he began, feeling somewhat absurd explaining something so fundamental. We have 4 fingers and 1 thumb on each hand. He wiggled his fingers individually, then moved his thumb in opposition to touch each fingertip in sequence. The reaction was immediate and profound. Several of the smaller delegates actually stumbled backward, while others leaned forward with scientific fascination. The thumb operates independently, Marcus continued, and can rotate and pivot to touch any point on the palm or fingertips. This gives us what we call precision grip. To demonstrate, he picked up a small stylus from the table, holding it between his thumb and forefinger with delicate control. Then he picked up a heavy ceremonial weight with his entire fist, showing the difference between precision and power grips. Dr. Zexthul, the lead Krextai xenobiologist, chittered excitedly and skittered closer on his 6 legs. His compound eyes reflected the light as they focused on Marcus's hands with laser intensity. Remarkable! His translated voice buzzed with electronic enthusiasm. The versatility is unprecedented. With our limb configuration, we excel at specific tasks, but cannot match this adaptability. Marcus demonstrated further by picking up objects of different sizes, shapes, and weights. He threaded a needle with surprising ease, then immediately after lifted a substantial piece of equipment. The assembled scientists documented every movement, every angle, every possible application. What you must understand, Dr. Isala, the ethereal ethernol representative whispered through her translation device, is that most species develop specializations. We Ethernols can manipulate matter through phase shifting. The Greyvacs use their incredible strength. The Scion Collective employs mental powers, but none of us has this universal manipulation capability. Matriarch Velandra activated a holographic display that showed the evolutionary trees of various species throughout the galaxy. Our records show that most intelligent species develop either brute force appendages for survival or highly specialized tools for specific environments. This balance between delicacy and strength in the same appendage is theoretically impossible according to our understanding of evolutionary pressures. Actually, Marcus said thoughtfully, human evolution was driven by our ancestors' need to use tools for survival. Those who could manipulate objects better lived longer and had more offspring. Over millions of years, this shaped our hands. The silence that followed was profound. Marcus looked around the chamber and realized that every being present was staring at him with expressions that ranged from amazement to something approaching reverence. "Tools for survival," Valandra repeated slowly. "Your entire species evolved around tool use?" "Well, yes," Marcus confirmed. "We're not the strongest, fastest, or most durable species on our planet. We survived by being clever and adaptable. Our thumbs let us create and use tools that made up for our physical limitations." Elder Gornoth of the Gravak Coalition, a massive stone-like being whose species could crush steel with their bare hands, leaned forward with surprising gentleness. "Young human, my people have strength that can move mountains. But watching you thread that needle, we could never accomplish such delicacy." Dr. Zexthul was practically vibrating with excitement. "The implications are staggering. This explains your species' rapid technological advancement. While we developed specialized capabilities and then built technology to complement them, you developed the ability to build any technology you could conceive." Valandra began pacing. Her forearms moving in complex patterns that Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. "This changes everything we know about intelligence development patterns. Most species hit what we call the specialization ceiling, a point where their natural abilities define the limits of their technological advancement." She turned to face Marcus directly. "But humans? You bypassed that entirely. Your limitation became your strength. By having no natural specialization, you developed the capability to specialize in anything." The excitement in the chamber was palpable. Scientists were already discussing the implications, their various forms of communication, creating a multilingual buzz of discovery. Marcus felt somewhat overwhelmed by the attention his simple demonstration had generated. "Ambassador," Valandra said formally, "I must ask you to demonstrate something else. Our observations suggest that humans can perform complex tasks requiring multiple types of manipulation simultaneously." "Of course," Marcus replied. "What would you like me to show you?" She gestured to an assistant who brought forward a collection of objects, mechanical components, delicate crystals, heavy metal blocks, and intricate electronic devices. "Build something," she said simply. "Anything. Show us how your species combines these manipulation capabilities." Marcus looked at the collection and decided on something practical. He began assembling a simple mechanical device, a basic clockwork mechanism that could keep time. His hands worked automatically, the thumbs providing the fine control needed for precise alignments, while his fingers supplied the strength for tighter connections. As he worked, he explained his process. "The thumbs let me position small components exactly where they need to go. The fingers provide the strength to secure them. I can switch between delicate placement and firm tightening without changing tools or hand position." The assembled scientists watched in fascination as Marcus created something functional from disparate parts, his thumbs enabling adjustments that would have required specialized tools for any other species. When he finished, the small mechanism began ticking steadily, its gear trains working in perfect harmony. The reaction from the delegates was immediate and intense. "Incredible," whispered Counselor Vexitar of the Hegemony. "My people would need 3 different specialists with distinct tool sets to accomplish what you just did alone." Dr. Zexthul was analyzing the finished device with portable scanners. "The precision tolerances are remarkable. How many humans would be capable of such work?" "Most of us," Marcus replied honestly. "Basic mechanical assembly is pretty common. Some humans are much more skilled than I am." This statement caused another wave of astonished reactions. The idea that such capabilities were common rather than exceptional seemed to challenge fundamental assumptions about intelligence and specialization. Velandra returned to her examination of Marcus's hands, this time using advanced scanning equipment that created detailed holographic models of the bone structure, muscle attachments, and nerve pathways. "The complexity is extraordinary," she murmured. "The number of muscles controlling just the thumb movement alone exceeds the total manipulator muscles of most species. And the brain activity—" She gestured to neural scanning displays that showed Marcus's brain activity during the demonstration. "The neural pathways dedicated to hand control represent a significant portion of your motor cortex. Your brains are literally designed around sophisticated manipulation. This explains so much about human behavior that we found puzzling," added Dr. Isala. "Your tendency to tinker with everything, your rapid adaptation to new technologies, your ability to reverse engineer alien systems after minimal exposure." Marcus was beginning to understand the true magnitude of what was being discussed. These weren't just biological observations. They were insights into why humanity had been able to advance so rapidly and adapt so effectively to challenges that other species found insurmountable. "Matriarch," he said carefully, "what does this mean for humanity's application to join the Confederation?" Velandra's expression became complex, her violet eyes reflecting deep thought. "Ambassador Chen, what this means is that we must completely reconsider our understanding of intelligence development and technological potential. Your species represents something we have never encountered before." She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates who were still discussing the implications among themselves. "But more than that," she continued, "it means we need to understand what humans are truly capable of. If basic manipulation skills are this advanced across your entire population, what happens when you encounter challenges that require the absolute limits of human adaptability?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine at the intensity of her gaze. Something in her tone suggested that this question was more than academic curiosity. 3 days after the examination, Marcus found himself in an entirely different part of the celestial harmony. The matriarch had called for what she termed a practical evaluation, and he now stood before a massive viewing portal that looked out into the depths of space. Below them, a derelict space station tumbled slowly in the void, its hull scarred by what appeared to be battle damage. "The Eternal Seeker," Matriarch Velandra said as she approached, her 4 arms moving in gestures of solemn respect. "One of our most advanced research vessels, lost during the Void War nearly a century ago. Its crew of 300 perished when raiders overwhelmed their defenses." Marcus studied the massive structure, noting the elegant curves that marked Zilithian architecture alongside the harsh angular additions that spoke of alien modifications. "I'm sorry for your loss, Matriarch, but why are you showing me this?" "Because," she replied, "it contains something that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. The research team aboard was working on a new form of quantum computing that could revolutionize space travel, communication, and energy production. The prototype is still aboard that ship." Elder Gornath's massive form approached from behind, his stone-like features unreadable. "For decades, the greatest minds in the Confederation have attempted to retrieve it. The station's interior was damaged in the attack, the corridors are partially collapsed, the environmental systems are compromised, and the quantum prototype is located in the most heavily damaged section." Dr. Zexthul scuttled up on his 6 legs, his compound eyes reflecting the starlight from the viewport. "We have sent our best engineers, our most skilled technicians, our most adaptable specialists. None have succeeded in navigating the wreckage to reach the prototype." Marcus was beginning to understand why he was here. "You want me to try?" "Not just you," Velandra corrected. "We want to understand what humans are truly capable of when faced with challenges that require the ultimate in adaptability and problem-solving." This isn't just about your thumbs anymore, Ambassador. It's about what those thumbs represent. She activated a holographic display that showed the interior of the derelict station. The corridors were indeed partially collapsed, filled with debris and twisted metal. Emergency systems had long since failed, leaving the interior in darkness broken only by the occasional spark from damaged conduits. The quantum prototype is here. She highlighted a section deep within the station. To reach it, one must navigate through this debris field, bypass 17 separate security systems that are still partially active, and manipulate damaged controls that were designed for Zilithian hands. Our engineers calculated that it would require a team of specialists working in perfect coordination, added Dr. Isala through her translation device. A demolitions expert to clear the path, an electronics specialist to bypass the security systems, a mechanical engineer to operate the damaged controls, and a theoretical physicist to safely extract the prototype. Marcus studied the holographic layout, his mind automatically analyzing the problems presented. What makes you think one human could accomplish what your teams couldn't? Your demonstration 3 days ago, Valandra replied simply. You showed us that humans don't just have superior manipulation capabilities. You showed us that you can switch between different types of tasks instantly, adapt to unexpected problems, and create solutions using whatever materials are available. She gestured to another display showing recordings of previous attempts. When our specialists encounter a problem outside their expertise, they must wait for the appropriate expert to arrive, time that cannot be spared in a hostile environment. But your species seems to possess what we can only call universal competency. Marcus felt the weight of expectation settling on his shoulders. This isn't just about retrieving a prototype, is it? No, Valandra admitted. The Confederation has reached a critical point. We face challenges that our specialized approach cannot solve. The recent incursions from beyond our galaxy, the emergence of threats that don't follow established patterns, the need for rapid adaptation to unprecedented situations. Elder Gornath's voice rumbled like shifting mountains. Young human, we have watched your species for only a brief time in galactic terms, but what we have seen disturbs our understanding of how civilizations develop. You adapt to new situations faster than should be possible. You innovate solutions that our greatest minds dismiss as impossible. You thrive in conditions that would destroy other species. Dr. Zexthul chittered in agreement. The mathematical models for your advancement don't work. According to our calculations, your species should have plateaued technologically centuries ago. Instead, you continue to accelerate. Marcus looked out at the derelict station, understanding dawning. You're not just testing me. You're testing the theory that humanity represents a new form of intelligent life. Exactly, Valandra confirmed. A species that evolved not to excel at specific tasks, but to excel at excelling. Your thumbs are just the physical manifestation of a deeper adaptive capability that we believe extends to every aspect of human cognition and problem-solving. The challenge was daunting, but Marcus found himself intrigued rather than intimidated. His training as a diplomat had taught him to see problems from multiple angles, to find common ground between vastly different perspectives. Perhaps that same flexibility would serve him now. What resources would I have? Standard emergency kit, basic tools, and whatever you can salvage from the station itself, Valandra replied. The same resources available to every previous attempt. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll need to study the schematics in detail, understand the security systems, and plan multiple backup approaches. How long will you need to prepare? Dr. Zexthul asked. Give me 12 hours to analyze everything, Marcus replied. Then we'll see what humans are really capable of. 12 hours later, Marcus floated in the airlock of a small shuttle, wearing an environmental suit adapted for human physiology. The derelict station loomed before him, its hull scarred by weapons fire and the slow decay of decades in space. Through his comm system, he could hear the various delegates discussing the attempt. All previous teams required weeks of preparation, Dr. Isala noted. The human analyzed the situation in half a day. The preparation time itself may be significant, Elder Gornath rumbled. Quick analysis and rapid adaptation rather than extensive planning. Marcus activated his suit's thrusters and approached the station's emergency airlock. The first challenge was immediate. The airlock controls had been designed for Zilithian hands, with 6 separate manipulation points that needed to be operated simultaneously. "Here we go," he murmured, positioning his hands at the control interface. His thumbs proved crucial, allowing him to operate controls at angles that would have been impossible for any other species they had tested. The airlock cycled, and Marcus entered the station. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the twisted corridors, and he immediately understood why previous attempts had failed. The damage wasn't random. It formed a maze that required constant adaptation and creative problem-solving. For the next 6 hours, Marcus worked his way through the station. When a corridor was blocked, he found alternate routes through maintenance shafts. When security systems required simultaneous inputs at multiple points, his thumbs and fingers worked independently to satisfy the requirements. When damage controls needed both delicate adjustment and brute force, he provided both. Most importantly, when he encountered problems he hadn't anticipated, he adapted. A section where the artificial gravity had failed required him to use debris as handholds while manipulating controls. A security door that required a code meant he had to trace damaged circuits back to their source to understand the original programming. "Remarkable!" Dr. Zexthel's voice crackled through the comm. "He's treating each obstacle as a puzzle to be solved rather than a specialized challenge requiring expert knowledge." "Notice how he's using salvaged materials," Velandra observed. "That cable he pulled from a damaged console is now serving as a bridge across the corridor gap. He's not just adapting to the environment, he's reshaping it." Finally, Marcus reached the quantum prototype chamber. The device itself was intact, but the extraction mechanism had been damaged in the attack. The original designers had created a complex procedure that required precise manipulation of 12 different controls in a specific sequence. Marcus studied the damaged interface, then began working. His thumbs allowed him to operate controls that had been designed for multiple specialists working in coordination. When one interface required more force than his fingers could provide, he used a piece of salvaged metal as a lever. When delicate calibration was needed, his thumbs provided microscopic precision. "He's completing a procedure designed for a 4-person team," Dr. Isala whispered in amazement. 20 minutes later, Marcus emerged from the prototype chamber carrying a device that represented decades of research by the galaxy's most advanced civilization. The return journey to the celestial harmony was completed in silence. When Marcus finally stood before the assembled delegates, still carrying the quantum prototype, Matriarch Velandra approached him with an expression of profound thoughtfulness. "Ambassador Chen," she said formally, "you have not just retrieved a piece of technology. You have demonstrated something that challenges our fundamental understanding of intelligence and adaptation." She gestured to the assembled delegates, representing some of the most advanced species in the galaxy. "We have specialized for millennia, believing that expertise in specific areas was the path to advancement. But your species has shown us another way, the path of universal adaptability." Elder Gornath stepped forward, his massive form somehow conveying respect. "Young human, your people possess something we had not thought possible. Not just the ability to adapt to new challenges, but the ability to thrive in any situation through creativity and determination." Dr. Zexthel chittered excitedly. "The implications for galactic civilization are enormous. Humans don't just solve problems, they solve problems we didn't even know existed using methods we never considered. Matriarch Velandra raised all four of her hands in a formal gesture that Marcus recognized as the highest form of respect in Zilithian culture. "The Confederation hereby extends full membership to humanity," she announced. "But more than that, we formally request that your species consider taking a leadership role in addressing the challenges that face our galaxy." Marcus felt the weight of history settling around him. "With respect, Matriarch, I'm just one human. What I accomplished today, thousands of my people could have done better." The silence that followed was profound. "Ambassador," Velandra said softly, "that statement terrifies and amazes us in equal measure. A galaxy full of beings who can adapt to any challenge, solve any problem, overcome any obstacle." She looked around at the assembled delegates, then back to Marcus. "The question is no longer whether humanity deserves membership in the Confederation. The question is whether the rest of us are ready for what humans will bring to the galaxy." As Marcus stood there, holding a piece of technology that represented the pinnacle of alien achievement, retrieved through nothing more than human adaptability and determination, he began to understand what it truly meant to be human among the stars. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most intelligent, but perhaps the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The ultimate generalists in a universe of specialists.